resultant normalization of civil rights for folks employed in that trade. It's a critical issue. It's part of, if you will, it's similar to the drug war in that we are uniquely in America creating a prison pipeline where we are taking folks who are involved in consensual activities, whether it be the use of cannabis, consensual activities between two adults in the role of professional paid sex work, and creating a prison pipeline for folks who simply do not deserve to be there, and as a result, creating not only for them but for society at large a set of ills, both financial, moral, that we will be paying for generations. And if we just don't stop it, I mean, just right now, let's just grow up and stop it. If we don't do that, our children will be paying the cost of this. And just one reflection, it's been a couple of 3 years here in Rhode Island since the legalization, since we'll call it marriage equality, occurred. And yet somehow the pillars of society have not crumbled to salt. Folks have been able to live in the dignity and the sense of family that they've been entitled to as straight people were. And we haven't crumbled as a society yet. So this will be, whether it be the decriminalization of sex work or making cannabis legal, this will be truly one of those issues in generations to come where we will look back and say, what were we thinking? What were we doing? Why did we do that to people that we loved and lived with? I don't know. You tell me. So, again, in studio, Bella Robinson. On the line right now, Norma Jean Moldovar. Norma Jean, welcome for your first time to the Coalition.
Well, thank you so much. It's my pleasure. I'm glad you invited me.
Well, it's we hope to make this a regular stop until one day where you don't have to. And then we'll also get together and share a glass of wine and toast. Okay? First off, I would be remiss if I didn't congratulate both of you for your successes both in public outreach and I'll call it making the big point on this past December 17th. I know here in Providence, Bella ran a both solemn, joyful, and informative observation that day. So congratulations. And I was going to throw this out to both of you. What have you seen the fruits of that? Or do you think there's awareness because of this year's sort of national observance of December 17th?
Are you asking me? Or
I'll ask you first, Norma.
Well, actually, I've been an activist since 1982 when I left the LAPD. And I'd like to say that we've seen progress, but I hate to say it, but we haven't because, around the early 90s when the hardcore feminists and the radical religious people joined forces and started the nonsense about sex trafficking, we've really moved backwards. I mean, I put 34 years of my life into this, so unfortunately I don't see that we have made progress. I hope that changes. I hope that we do, quote unquote, create awareness about the hideous nature of these laws.
Well, let me set the stage then. Let's jump right into it. What's fascinating to a lot of people who are still, literally 30 plus years later, hearing your story for the first time, is that you started your working career in the employment of the Los Angeles Police Department. And I guess your job, tell us about your job at the time.
Well, back in the 70s, in 1972, when I joined the LAPD, they did not have female police officers. So I joined as a civilian traffic officer because that's all women could be at that time. I was also assigned to work night watch in a patrol car alone with no gun. And I worked from 6 at night to 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, and it was dangerous. I worked the Hollywood Hills. I was up there when they had the what do you call it, the John Holmes thing, the murder up there on the drive. And I mean, it was a dangerous job. And, the irony is that when I became a call girl, everybody wanted to protect me for my own good because they said prostitution is dangerous. And I'm like, you know what? I was in a dangerous job when I worked for the LAPD, but nobody wanted to go and rescue me then. So why is it that when I'm making so much more money and I have so much more autonomy and all the money that I earn except for that which I pay the person that provided me with my clients, all of it went to me. I mean, I used to write literally thousands of dollars worth of tickets every night. And I got back out of that, thousands of dollars, I got back a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of the money I made for my pimp, who was Daryl Gates.
Wow. Now paint a picture. Now, I grew up I was born in 1960, so I grew up here on the East Coast, and there, as I got older, I realized there's two very different conflicting pictures of Los Angeles at that time. On one hand, you had the Adam 12 picture, where the overwhelmingly white knights strode across Los Angeles in their trusty steeds, their Ford Crown Victorias or whatever they were at the time, with their numbers on the top of the vehicle, fighting crime.
Right.
Now, if anyone remembers back to the show, they always used to do that. Shh, shh. This is Ramparts. There's a point to that. Okay.
Well, I worked Hollywood and Rampart, so I'm very well aware of both of those things. And and when I first started, I was so naive. I was 21 years old. I had come out from upstate New York, which is where I'm from, and I really believed that law enforcement was exactly what you're saying, that we think they're white knights, they're out there saving us from crime. And it took me 5 years before I really was able to accept that the people I worked with, I started calling them the Blue Mafia, because that's really what they were. And it's not that there weren't good cops, because there are, and there are good cops all over the country. Unfortunately, as I learned, if you are a good cop or a good traffic officer and you do your job the way you're supposed to, you make a lot of enemies. Mm-hmm. And I made those enemies, and of course I ended up going to prison. But the thing is, when I was working for the LAPD, and for the next 5 years after I finally recognized what was going on, it was like being in pure hell, because I knew what my colleagues were doing. I mean, at the time, back in the 70s and the early 80s, the cops had a burglary ring. They would drive their patrol cars by these electronic places. They'd throw a rock, set off the alarm, go in, steal the equipment. They had a list of stuff that other cops wanted, and they would put that in the back of their patrol car, and then they would call the alarm company. Well, the alarm company got kind of suspicious, and they called in the FBI, and the FBI says, called Internal Affairs and says, if you guys don't clean this up, we will. And so they had a sting operation, and they arrested, a bunch of guys, but nobody ended up going to prison. One of the cops, Jack Myers, he testified, he went down there and he did a deposition, and he spoke to the press, and he says, what you know is it's 100 times worse than what you know. We did hundreds of burglaries on duty in our patrol cars. We went up to Griffith Park. We took prostitutes up there. We would have sex with them, and then we let them go, and they had to walk back to Hollywood Boulevard or Sunset Boulevard or wherever they were working. And the sergeant that was in charge, he basically wanted to get every one of those cops involved in this criminal activity so that he had the power over those guys in order to be able to control them. That was one of the things. So they had the burglary ring, murder for hire ring, a yacht theft ring, and as I said, the cops were having sex with prostitutes on duty. They had they would go up to Griffith Park and they would have steak fries and they would have poker games for hundreds of dollars, even as they went out and busted little old Jewish folks for playing penny ante poker. And then they'd go on TV and talk about how, well, we have to set a good example, and these old folks got to know they can't be doing this. Well, okay, so then the cops are up there gambling for hundreds of dollars, but you're going to bust these old folks. And I just couldn't take this anymore because it was so wrong, and people needed to know it. So becoming a call girl, that was the thing I wanted to do in order to make a political statement. And I said I'd rather be a whore than work for the LAPD.
So what you're telling me is that probably the novel L.A. Confidential is probably a lot closer to the reality than than the stories of Walt Disney and Adam 12.
Yes, it's a lot closer to L.A. Confidential. I mean, when I watched that, I'm like, yeah, that's so very close.
Wow.
You know, and it was very scary to me, and it still is, because I still live in Los Angeles, and the LAPD does not like me. I don't know why.
All right, we're gonna take a quick break, but needless to say, it was not that many years later then perhaps one of the single largest police corruption cases, the quote-unquote Ramparts trials, took place, which led to really almost a societal meltdown of law enforcement in California.
Yep.
So what you're reporting on was really just a microcosm of what was happening. Folks, you're listening to The Coalition on WPRO AM 630, 99.7 on the Worldwide Coalition Radio Network. We're going to get into some of the specifics, some of the activist groups that are combating essentially this power exchange that's taking place on a daily basis, the struggle between police, sex work, and what should be consensual, legalized sex work. Folks, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
It's Rhode Island's anchorman, Gene Velocenti, 6 till 9 a.m. on News Talk 630 and 99.7 FM, WPRO. Start your day with up-to-the-minute news, traffic, and weather. You'll also have a chance to win tickets for an evening with Sophia Loren at Foxwoods Resort Casino on March 18th. Every Friday after 8 a.m., play the game of the week. Brought to you by Rhode Island Credit Union. More than just banking, Gene loves to play games, and he's going to make you think to win. Every Friday is different. You could play In It to Win It Trivia, Rhode Island Price is Right, or whatever game Gene and the morning crew come up with. Win Sophia Loren tickets, brought to you by Foxwoods Resort Casino. Plus, tickets available at foxwoods.com. It all happens Friday mornings with Rhode Island's anchorman, Gene Velocenti, on News Talk 630 and 99.7 FM, WPRO.
You have probably heard about the governor's plan to put truck tolls on Rhode Island highways in order to pay for repair of our bridges. Yes, the bridges need to be fixed and repaired, but putting up toll gantries is a wrong and dangerous answer. The governor's plan just doesn't add up, and when the truck toll revenues fall short, guess what those gantries will be used for? Tolling every vehicle. Trucks today, cars tomorrow. Join the fight. Visit StopTollsRI.com. That's StopTollsRI.com.
Ah, January. Birthstone the Garnet. Host to Houseplant Appreciation Day.
Excuse me? No one likes January.
Often called the Wolf Month in the Middle Ages by people more likely to be eaten by hungry wolves looking for food.
All right, enough.
Would it help if I told you January also brings Shop Your Way surprise points?
Wait, what?
Use them at Kmart and Sears on anything you want. Earrings, a new sweater, maybe a tea kettle.
Huh?
January is also hot tea month.
Surprise points valid until January 13th. Amount of points awarded based on membership status and other factors. Ask to redeem your points at checkout. Exclusions apply. See shopyourway.com for details.
Want to see what you'd look like if you had a flatter belly? Now's your chance, because for a limited time, we're giving away free trials of New Biotics, the new discovery that flattens bloated bellies fast. But hurry and call now while we're still giving it away for free. 1-800-974-5528. Strict limit of 1 free trial per household. These free trials are reserved for anyone, male or female, who's looking for maximum belly flattening in minimum time. New Biotics is scientifically formulated with natural ingredients to flatten bloated bellies fast by cleansing pounds of rotting food and toxic sludge from your body. It even combats periodic heartburn and acid reflux. So just think how much better you'll look and feel. Want to see what you'd look like with a flatter belly? Now's your chance. But hurry, call now for details while we're still giving these trials of New Biotics away for free. 1-800-974-5528. That's 1-800-974-5528. If lines are busy, try again. 1-800-974-5528.
I'm Nick Soboleski, a Select Quote agent with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a $300,000 group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and can't take it with him. Well, I impartially shopped the highly rated term life insurance companies we represent and found Ray, who is 41 and takes medication to control his cholesterol, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for under $26 a month. That's almost twice the coverage for less than half of what he had paid. If SelectQuote hasn't shopped for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote, call 1-800-471-9807. That's 1-800-471-9807. 1-800-471-9807. Or go to SelectQuote.com. We shop. You save. Get full details on the example policy at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Your price can vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors not available in all states.
Now, back to the Coalition with Pat Ford and Dave Fisher on News Talk 630 at 90.